Hello, good morning. Maybe I start with a hygienic factor. Who is here an English speaker? Please raise your hand. Okay, some English speakers. Perfect. Okay. For us, company language is English, so I was prepared to do this in English, but wanted to quickly ask, as you can hear, I'm a native German speaker, so of course didn't want to speak in English if there are only German listeners. Yeah, my big pleasure to be here today. I have to say, very impressive audience here. Last time I've been sitting there watching a movie, so interesting change of scenery here. And I have one more question before I start with the presentation. Who of you here works in retail media? Can you show me a sign of it? Okay, many of you. Cool. So then, what are we gonna talk about today? I would first like to tell you a little bit who is Zalando and who are we in retail media partner marketing in Zalando. So first, I think you know many of the brands you see here on the right-hand side. I hope all of you have ordered something from Zalando. Spring is coming, so maybe you have a parcel planned to arrive soon. We have many exciting brands. As said in the intro, I was working for 9 years in buying, so I saw the evolution also of these brands onboarding, and it's super nice that we get the chance to work with local heroes from markets that can be really niche brands, but also with the biggest global players in many of our portfolios. We are structured to audiences, so we have a young fashion audience, modern, sports, beauty, kids. We really try to be the starting point of fashion and have something for everyone. And we serve over 50 million customers, so we have a really big base in Europe as well. Here you see our footprint across Europe. Currently, we are live in all the markets you see, but there are 3 markets going to follow soon, which are Bulgaria, Greece, and Portugal. So more to come. And mentioned in the beginning, a number, of course, we're super proud on in ZMS is that since we started in 2015, we accomplished over 70,000 campaigns together with our partners, which is I think quite a striking number if you accumulated over the years. But now let's have a look at the retail media landscape and why is this such an important topic. So great to see that many of you are in this industry already. Others are maybe here today because you think, what is the importance of this in my career, in our company? And I want to show you 2 numbers that I think are really strong arguments why it's time well spent with retail media. So the IAB forecast that by 2027, around 27 billion euros will be spent for retail media, and that 19% of the digital advertising budget will be placed in there. So I think we can all agree there's a big opportunity, and it's worth looking at what is this all about? What are trends? What is the evolution of retail media? And as the title said today, we believe it's much more than just performance-based marketing. So maybe you work in a company where you have a strategy already, or maybe you are just starting. So also you have the chance to ask questions later. Please don't hold back. I will go rather fast over some of the basics, but if there are some terms used that you don't understand that you'd like to know more about, then also please ask. So there are 3 funnel steps in retail media, and the third one is the one known best and the one it all started with, right? So the conversion factor. And of course, while it's super easy to measure and all of you have seen sponsored products and they tend to get more and more, it's equally important to also think about the mid and the upper funnel conversion. And I want to tell you why each of these funnel steps are so important. So we know that especially for Gen Z, and that is half of our population worldwide, it is super important to get inspired and entertained when they come to shop. So 70% of them say that they make a purchase decision when they are in this awareness and inspiration phase. So they do not come with a clear purchase intent to a website. They do not come with a clear brand in mind, but they want to be inspired, they want to be engaged. And this is why we think it is super, super important to be mindful about this funnel and make use of that knowledge. And also, we have seen that, for instance, video content plays such an important role here. So we know that customers are 70% more likely to shop and keep something if it has a video content. So that's just a few points on why this upper funnel is so important. Then, of course, the mid funnel, where it's about consideration. So here it's about making sure that your brand is in the mind of the consumers when they consider to purchase a new rain jacket, the next pair of boots, the sandals for the summer. So I will now run you through some examples on how in Zalando we have had campaigns to focus on each of these funnel steps with different brands with very different objectives. So the first example here is Snox. This is a Cyber Week campaign example, and they had a very clear objective. So they said, I see my eyes, I must come a bit closer. They said they want to drive NMV growth, they want to increase their profitability, and they want to make use of a peak time that we have. Of course, you know, cyber is super important. We have some partners that do half of the revenue of the whole year only in the last quarter of the year, with then end of season sale with Cyber Week. So of course this is a peak time where you have the ultimate chance to really drive the performance of your brand. So we then said we do not only want to have this as a one-time attempt, but we also want to collect insights for future campaigns, which of course, if you have all eyes on you during such a peak time, is a great chance. So let's have a look what it did for the brand. We saw an uplift of 167% year-over-year NMV growth for the time we were having the lower funnel activation for Snox during Cyber. You can imagine the brand was super happy with that. And we saw that they had almost 300,000 PDP views. What is interesting, that this has a halo effect also on the mid-funnel. So here you can see that we have an uplift of 255% in brand followership. What does this mean? In Zalando, we have something that is called a brand home. So if you go to a physical department store, you know there are these shop-in-shop concepts. We have a little bit the digital version of this, and you can click the follow button if you are interested in a brand. If this brand is then uploading new collections and new materials, you will get a push notification, and you're also accepting to be in touch with this brand. So it's super, super valuable for a brand, of course, to attract more followers, which we were able to do nicely here. So this is the first example where you can see that despite them having the clear objective to drive conversion, which we succeeded in, this also has a nice halo effect then on the mid-funnel. The next example I want to show you is an example from DK Company. This is a big Danish partner we work with. They have many different brands, and one of their latest editions is called My Essential Wardrobe. And it's a really, really lovely brand. I personally love the collection, but yet it's not very well known. So many of you may be sitting thinking, I've never heard about them. So this is what we figured as well. And this is why we said we would love to elevate the consideration of this brand. And we did a study with a control group where we showed all of our advertisement efforts to one group of the customers, but not to the other. And in this lift study, we saw some interesting results. So you see that those who did see the advertisement then did have a follow-up on 345% for the brand followership. So here you can really see that consideration works, and that once the customer was exposed with the brand, said, yes, this is a brand I would love to see more of and that I want to remember for my next purchase. Also, super good indicator is plus 72% add to wish list. Also, of course, a KPI we watch very carefully as we get here the clear signal the customer is interested in the products and wants to keep it on their wish list for later, or add to cart, which then, of course, helps drive the lower funnel as well. So then also here I want to show you what is the halo on awareness. So the nice thing is, of course, that while we are carefully designing each campaign per funnel step, we always monitor, of course, carefully what is the halo effect on one of the other steps. And it's not that just if we say we really want to drive consideration or conversion that we're not looking at the other funnel steps. No, we always see it holistically. And here we can see that in the awareness stage, so in the first moment after we had this lift study, we could see that 47% where there was an increase of 47% on the average uplift in brand searches. So that is then, of course, the biggest moment for a brand when the customer comes in and you have seen we have a catalog of 6,000 brands, but he or she comes in to directly type the name of your brand. This is when you know, okay, you made it, you really won over a new brand fan. The last example I want to show you is an awareness campaign. And this, I think, is one of my favorites campaign we did all year last year. So maybe especially the ladies here recognize this young man. I personally spent much time with him on my couch watching him and Emily in Paris. And so it was, he was high on our wish list when it came to looking for campaign talent. And also, this lady, you might recall, she starred in White Lotus, the second episode, and we had an idea where we came together with our colleagues from the buying team, with the brand colleagues from Tommy Hilfiger, and we said, okay, we would love to drive younger customers, so millennials and Gen Z. We want to have real fashion enthusiasts that are coming to Tommy Hilfiger. So we want to make it young and cool and relevant and fresh. And we started with a mood board and then developed a collection. So all the items you see here on the images were specifically designed for this purpose. So it started, we have a nice picture with 15 people in one room, and you see all types of colors and patterns, and it really looks, what you would imagine such a moment feels like. And we carefully crafted it from the start, had the collection, selected the talent together, and then drove this campaign in last summer. And of course, the intent was also that we want to increase the traffic and the engagement, but we want to have a halo effect for the whole brand. So not only do a good job for the capsule we designed, but for Tommy Hilfiger overall. So let's have a look on the results. In the end, we generated 208 million impressions with this campaign, which is, of course, a fantastic number. We also saw an increase of 27% brand followers. You see here the number is not as big as before, but you can imagine a brand like Tommy Hilfiger has quite a huge base already. And here it was not so much about how many customers do we attract, but do we speak to the right audience that we want to talk to. And we could see that the customer base was growing 18%. And what was the big objective, especially in the younger segment. So here we were able to attract the fashion enthusiast Gen Z. That was really, really cool to see. So now I showed you, of course, many nice campaigns, and it worked out great. And it might seem like that's super easy, but what are the watch outs, and what is it that brought us there? Because you can imagine behind the scenes there's a lot of work that goes into this to have in the end a sleek campaign with outcomes like this. So I want to show you a bit behind the scenes, what is our process and how do we work. First of all, we have this nice rainbow wheel here, and it obviously all starts with data. And last year, we almost reached 52 million active customers. So you can imagine that, of course, we have loads of data we can look at, which help us and which are always the starting point for any marketing efforts we do. From this data, we can gain competitive insights, and I will show you in a little bit visualization what this means. Then audience. So I know audience targeting is a big topic, and there's quite some controversy. Whereas in some conversations you hear that you should always go for the maximum size of the audience. We have a bit of a different approach, and I will also explain why. And in the end, of course, measuring the full funnel impact is super important, and also provide credible reporting to the partner. Here it comes just a step forward, but in my experience, it's of course super, super important to discuss from the beginning on what is the objective and what will success look like. There's this famous example of us doing a big awareness campaign for a partner, mentioning multiple times that awareness will not translate into sales the same way as a lower funnel campaign. But then the next call was, the campaign looks amazing, but why did I not sell more jeans directly? So here I personally learned my lesson, and it's super, super important to have this outcome approach already also as a discussion point in the beginning. In order to properly help brands to reach their objectives, we created something called the Customer Journey Compass. And in the end, what we do is we look at the 3 funnel steps. You can then see always what are the KPIs that we measure, and we tell a brand how well do they do. How well do they do compared to their peers when it comes to awareness, to consideration, and conversion. And what it looks like is this. I need to click more. I give you the full picture here. So here you can see that a brand is listed already quite far to the right, and this is exactly where you want to go, because you want to score high on consideration, high on awareness, and as you can see, the size of the bubble will in the end tell you what's your conversion rate. So I can tell you, when you show, for instance, a denim brand, the denim assortment is a highly competitive environment. And I was at a meeting with one of the big denim partners that was still somewhere here in the mid-tier sellers. And we showed the presentation with all the other brand names, and it took, I think, everyone a second to jump up, run to the screen and wanted to see who is the competitor, what's the name, why is this brand here, why am I here, what is the size of the bubble. So this is, of course, super, super interesting. And it is a very nice tool for us to say, where do we see you standing today in the competitive environment with your peers in Zalando, and where is it you want to go, and what is it you have to do to get there. And now we are able to then provide recommendation based on this analysis for each of the funnel steps, which is a tool that we only developed last year and that we are rolling out this year. So I mentioned already the importance of targeting and of data. And also here I want to show you how we do that behind the curtains. So what you can see here is a comparison of audience groups and of targeting versus non-targeting. So of course you could say, I want to speak to all of the 52 million customers in Zalando. I want to see the whole bubble that you see here in gray. And that's very understandable, because you might think the more the merrier. The truth is, this will cost you a lot of time and a huge budget. And it's not spent wisely, because we know already from data that many of these customers that are in the biggest possible customer pool will not be interested in your brand. And this is not the customer you want or you should be talking to. And this is why we developed something called brand affinity audience, which you see here in pink. So we observe through machine learning what is the behavior of the customers. And we then know which customers are likely to follow your brand and to become fans of your brand, to become aware of your brand, and in the end, ultimately, to become a brand fan and to convert. And even within this affinity pool, we then can, the more granularly we go, we can identify what are the captured customers and who are those considering. And this is, of course, then what we carefully measure and track, as I showed you in some of the examples. And the reason why we do this, as we did a campaign where we compared the impact of the targeted versus the non-targeted customers, and we saw that those who we identified through the audience targeting groups had 96% more add to wish list and 82% more add to cart. So we saw that the budget was used here much, much more efficiently. Okay. So, what can we learn from all this? For us, we identified that what's super, super important in retail media is not to look at the lowest funnel step or to be then very specific just for one of the three, but to think holistically. And customer-centric marketing, no surprise, is what brings this all together. So we start with insights, and we need to plan around the customer, because in the end, people are not reading ads, right? They engage with stories. They want to see who is relevant for them, what is relevant. So this is what we need to show. We have to have transparency on the value of the campaign. So reporting and trust around this is very important. And I know there are many conversations going on standardization of certain KPIs. I can't wait for this to be solved. But of course, having a transparent conversation on what is the data you take as a base and what is you will report on is super important. And in the end, we need to measure and look at the long-term impact of retail media. So it is, of course, great if you align on a campaign for a week or two, but what is then the bigger strategy? So in best case scenario, we have 3-year growth plans together with our brands, where we look at everything from logistic, from buying, from stock efficiency, as well as marketing, to look at what is the holistic growth for a brand partner on Zalando and how can retail media help to get them there. And with that, I'm closing. I see we have a couple of more minutes also for question. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Heike, for your inspiring insights. That was really interesting. And I mean, Zalando Partner Marketing Services, it's not only a sales engine. So you focus on long-term and positive effects, but how do you measure the success, this branding success?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So in the customer journey I showed you, the customer journey compass, what we intend to do is track really how brands are improving and go to the far right from the bubble chart I showed. And ideally, we do this then every quarter to track the progress on this. So everyone has transparency also. What is the payout, of course, of my efforts here. But as you know, there are many more measurements you can take. We also do in-depth studies for partners if they like that. We can measure the brand followership, how the traffic is going up, the search terms. So we sit on a big pool of data.
50 million customer insights, huh?
Yeah, and that is, I think, as great as it is, it's also a challenge, of course, to slice and dice the data in the right way.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, we got some questions from the audience. Let's just go through them. The return rate of products on Zalando is very high. How is this considered in the reporting of conversions, return on advertising spend in retail media campaigns for clients?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, and we indeed have a change only quite lately, because especially our sponsored products, they were highly focusing on NMV growth instead of profitability. We did now change this, because if you look at the return rates, then unfortunately the Germans are the #1 in returning parcels. If we would have much more Italian and Polish customer, I can tell you, would be financially a completely different game. And of course this plays a huge role. So what we do now is we optimized our systems to look at profitability rather than NMV growth, which makes then other markets much, much more attractive, as of course in the end for the partner P&L, the return rate is a very big factor, just as marketing and logistic costs. And yeah, this is how we changed the game here.
Okay, I think the question is answered. If not, please show your hand up. We also have a hand microphone, but let's go through the questions via Slido. We have 4 minutes left, so we see how much questions we can get. Are you also measuring traditional upper funnel KPIs like reach and frequency, which are essential in traditional branding media environments?
Yes, we do. And in order not to get bored, we also add now some inspiration and entertainment KPIs. So time spent, engagement, and so on. We certainly do that. We now lately also see more and more demand for events. So especially in the young generation, we know there's a strong desire for community building. You maybe see it with all the running clubs, but also we did a craft festival for our denim brand in last October, and where the sign-up completely exceeded our expectations. So we do measure, I want to say, every piece of the puzzle. And that's, of course, super interesting then to put into relation also how do, in the end, do the upper funnel measurements we have translate through the funnel. Yeah.
There's a good question. Maybe you can give us some insights about that, because it fits very well. The person is interested how the return on advertising spend developed on your first case whilst increasing the media spend.
Oh, can you repeat that? Sorry. How the
return on advertising spend developed on your first lower funnel case whilst increasing the media spend? I think how it developed with the or maybe you can show up that we can really get the whole question, or just I
can.
I think it's the development of.
Maybe I can try to answer the way I understand.
Yeah, let's please do it like that.
So we have a couple of brand partners that start, for instance, in self-service and only do sponsored products. But what we see then is, once they figured out the game, and here I can recommend the best you can do is always not define a certain marketing fixed budget, but rather say you define the profit pool you want to make, so the operating margin per product. And once you exceed that, you reinvest every euro back into the media game to gain market share. And that is, of course, especially interesting if you're a challenger brand, if you are new in the industry. And we have seen that successfully with brands in the running sector, like like Hoka, who really managed to claim some of the space of the big Nikes and Adidas of the world. And usually we see that brands start to invest on the lower funnel, and then once they see they figured out the system, they are interested also to grow their spend and go to a marketing intensity between 5 and 15%, then through all the other funnel steps.
I think the question is answered, isn't it? Yes, okay. We have 2 more, and I think we take the time. There's only 1 minute here, but let's take some more minutes so we have a little coffee time after that. So What is Zalando's role in the creation of campaign assets related to comment made about wishing for and getting a specific brand talent for Tommy Hilfiger?
So we work with brands that use their own assets. So some of them already have to all different media types the assets ready to go. But we see more and more partners that really rely on us as a creative agency, so to say. And we also work very closely, of course, with offsite partners. You mentioned it in the intro. So there's a whole world of TikTok, Meta, Google. And we know very well, of course, what is the best asset creation for each of the channel. And I would say we see an increasing amount of brand partners that really like to come to us and ask for us to create assets for them instead of using their own traditional media. And that was also the case with Tommy Hilfiger, as they saw that the way they produce content, they reached a certain audience, but they saw it needed something different in order to talk to a different audience.
Great, thank you. So the last question from the audience is regarding gathering awareness and consideration impact on conversion rate. Is the conversion rate related to retail media campaigns only or overall brand e-com data?
So we can, of course, only measure what is happening on our premises. And we have a reporting logic where we can now track back all KPIs measured from our offsite partners, but the conversion we measure is indeed the one happening on our own premises. But of course, there's interest of brand partners to also extend this to their own .com, and that is something that we are now trying.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. So please, a big applause to Heike, Lari, and some really great insights.
Thank you.